Welcome back to the show, everybody. Super excited today to have a look into the franchise world and also a family-owned business. So super excited to have on the show Adam Povlitz, who is the president and CEO of Anago Cleaning Systems. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Hey Kip, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, pleasure to have you here. Yeah, so we've not had anyone on the show yet, really in the franchise world. So really excited to learn kind of behind the scenes what it's like to be a franchisor. But maybe just kind of start with your origin story. I mean, looks like you kind of grew up in the business, and love to hear your story, how you came to be in the role that you are now at Anago.
Sure. So I actually never wanted to join the family business. We're going to be totally honest. My background's in finance, corporate finance in particular. And I was kind of the go it on your own route. My father founded the business in 1989. I didn't actually join until 2009. So to, kind of give the time window there.
Sure.
But I was actually at IBM in corporate finance and living up in New York for a little while. And it was the '08, '09 recession that kind of got everybody. And I wasn't laid off. I was in the one of the financial planning committees, essentially. We had employee numbers. I had no names, and I was one of the analysts doing the analysis on, who's going to get let go, who was going to get the proverbial golden parachutes, who was not. And I go, man, that it left a terrible taste in my mouth. And I go, I could very easily have been on the other side of the table. And I was down for the holidays, and I was chatting with my dad, and he goes, I think I might have the tiger by the tail with this whole Anago thing. It's commercial cleaning, franchising. It's not something that, it's not. I have three kids. None of them are dreaming of becoming janitors one
Uh-huh.
day. But it's not something that you kind of think of when you think of franchising. It's not in the sexiest of industries. But he goes, I think it's a really great business model. You should come check it out. And it was about 6 months later that I ended up joining Anago. And he goes, okay, now you've left your highfalutin finance job and your first job at Anago, you're going to be a telemarketer by day and a franchisee's assistant at night cleaning a daycare. And so, I mean, it
Okay.
was it was baptism by fire, man. It was starting from the bottom. And I was on calls all day, and I was a terrible telemarketer, admittedly. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it was easier, 15 years ago than it is today, but not by much. It definitely takes a special person to fight through the rejection to get that one yes. Um, but I was doing that, and then I would literally, I brought a pair of jeans, and I had like an Anago t-shirt, and I'd go in the bathroom at 5 o'clock, change into my cleaning uniform, and then I'd hit the daycare, and this was like before diaper genies, right? So this was, not the convenient, this was like 55-gallon, trash bag filled with dirty diapers,
Oh
and
boy.
you gotta take a breath and tie it off as fast as you possibly can, and sprint out of the room. But it was good. It was, I learned all about the cleaning business. I did every position in what we call the master franchise. I'll kind of get into the model shortly, but
Sure.
uh, essentially we have unit franchises and master franchises. Unit franchises are in the cleaning business. Master franchises are in, call it sales, marketing, and support of the cleaning business owners. So
Okay.
I did all the cleaning. I did all the roles in the sales and marketing. I did telemarketing, outside sales, customer service, um, and ultimately moved to the corporate office. And then from the corporate office, I was traveling the country. I was kind of I was a young guy. I was probably maybe late 20s at this point. And, I didn't know anything. So I'm, learning as much as I can and just going out in the field, kind of taking it like a servant leadership approach
Sure.
of, what can we do for you? How can we help you grow your business? Um, and that's sort of what I'd like to think I've maintained as I've climbed the ranks over the past 15 years here at Anago. When I was So funny story, when I was appointed president, the former president, he was retiring, and He goes, I got you a business card holder. And I pull out the business card holder, and instead of saying president, it says PudsobIc. And his name was Terry. And I'll go, I do, Terry, what Pudsobic? What does this even mean? And he goes, it stands for poor, unfortunate, dumb SOB in charge. I was like, thank you. That is
That's great.
that is a lovely gift that you've
Thanks
given.
so much.
Appreciate the confidence, you know.
Oh, that's
But no,
hilarious.
I've been president since 2015, CEO since I think it was 2018 when that was official.
Yeah.
And it's been a wild ride.
No, absolutely. So how is your, I mean, that's great. I mean, out in the field, kind of with that servant leadership mindset, how has your, kind of personal definition of leadership evolved over the years as you've grown through the business?
I think I was probably I think every young guy getting into the business, you start out kind of as you know, maybe a little bit hard. You know, you're like you're tough on people. You're kind of I was probably there's definitely someone out there who will say I was a jerk. Not me, not my wife too. Well, maybe sometimes. You know, but no, I was definitely tough. I was tough you know, I knew what I wanted. I was very driven. And now I would say a lot of it is really slowing down and trying to spend time with your team, trying to spend time with your franchisees and just understand what it means, you know, what success means for them. Um, I think that's important. I think you know, I also think, but you know, kind of conversely, even I would say you have to have a more clear vision. I think I approached it as a servant leadership role, like I mentioned, and almost let you know where we went as a brand kind of get you know influenced to you know by you know anytime a franchisee or you know a staffer would say, hey, we should try this, we should try this. You know, if I thought it was a decent enough idea, it was like, yes, yeah, let's try it, let's try it, let's try it. Um, and then I read a book several years ago now called The One Thing. I don't
Uh-huh.
apologize
Yes.
who the author is. I forget off the top of my head, but I think it helped me kind of zero in and focus and say, wait a minute, you know, if I'm saying yes to all this, you know, non-crucial stuff, I'm essentially saying no to the crucial stuff in some time, you know, in some
Uh-huh.
regards with respect to my time. And it it kind of turned it around and we said, okay, wait a minute. What are the like three levers that we can pull that are going to get the absolute most, you know, bang for buck, ROI, growth for the system, whatever you want to call it. Um, what are those? And let's focus, I mean, absolutely maniacally on those, you know, two, three, four, whatever it is, things. Um, and start saying no to everything else.
Hmm.
And I think that's for us, I think that's helped tremendously with our growth over the last handful of years.
Yeah. If I remember right, I mean the one thing, I mean it's what is the one thing I can do that makes everything else either less important or totally unnecessary,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
focus on that one thing. That's a great book.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
How about any particular, like maybe the one leadership lesson you've learned that's been the most influential for you or most particularly valuable for you?
For me, I would say it was don't be afraid to hire and hire quickly.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I'm someone who I think I'm a reasonably sharp guy. I took on a lot personally when I got into the business and got into leadership, just because I had the time and I had the wherewithal to do it. And then you get to a point where you realize, like, you know, yes, I'm doing it all, but I also am working, you know, 70, 80 hours a week, and I have no life, you know,
Yeah.
and the business is crushing it, and you know, and yet here I am, you know, feeling like, you know, the job owns me versus, or, you know, the business owns me versus me owning the business kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and another book shout out, I guess. So back in, here's the backstory actually. In 20, what was it? 2021. So that was the Great Resignation
Mhm.
as they called it that
Yeah.
year. And I mean, historically, we've had people who've been with us, 10, 20. I have a couple people that are approaching 30 years
Oh,
with Anago.
that's
So they've been
incredible.
here longer than I've been here, and we've historically always had great retention. And that year, we caught the Great Resignation bug and just had unprecedented turnover to the point where I think myself personally and one of the ladies who's been here 30 years, who's one of our senior VPs, her and I were the ones like personally writing and proofreading the newsletters that go out and stuff like that. And I
Huh.
was like, oh my goodness, I
Wow.
I got caught so flat-footed, and never will I get caught that flat-footed again. Um, and interestingly enough, 6 months before that, I'm on the board at my local church here, and I was talking to my pastor, and they've been growing phenomenally. They're still crushing it. I think they were like top 10 fastest growing churches in the country
Really?
by whatever magazine rates church growth. And
Right.
uh, um, but I go, you've been doing such a great job just from a business sense, right? Put the religion aside for a second and say, from a business sense, you've been growing so fast and bringing on key people to manage it. And what's your, granted, your mission might be a little higher than cleaning
Yeah. Right.
toilets,
Uh-huh.
but I go, what's your secret? And he said, this book called WHO, not World Health Organization, but just Who, by Jeff Smart. Um, and I go, awesome. I put it in my Amazon wish list, and I looked away for 6 months, and that's when the resignation bug hit the company. And I go, I'm an idiot. I should have read that book. And I sat down and I read the book. And it was right when Apple had just come out with the thing on your phone where you could like scan the text, you could like hover over the book and you could take a picture of it and it would pick out the text. And
Okay.
so I'd read a page and I was like, ooh, that's good, snap. Ooh, that's good too, snap. And like turn the page. Oh, that's even better, snap. So I literally had like half of this book converted into text. And then I ended up making like a cheat sheet to follow it. But it gives you an outline on how to put together a job description, how to put together from the job description, what interview questions to ask, what order
Interesting.
to ask them in, and just the entire kind of, and like how many rounds of interviews. I mean, it's not even that long of a book. It's like 250 pages or
Huh.
something, very easy to read. Um, but I kind of made that into my blueprint and used it, and it really helps you, find home run hires is how I would call it. And since then, I've hired um, a marketing department of 5 people, including a vice president. I've hired a chief strategy officer, a chief operating officer, an IT director, um, several other mid-level positions. I think from just using that book, I've probably hired about 10 or 12 people in, call it, a year and a half.
That's incredible.
Um, and 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 started building out and professionalizing the management here. And when you start doing that, you realize like, oh man, I've been doing way too much. And because I've been doing it all myself, I haven't frankly been doing as good of a job as, doing that particular thing for a few hours a week as someone where I could say dedicate your role is around that task or that function or whatever it is, and having someone really, kick butt on it full time. It's just been night and day. It's been night and day for the growth of the business. It's been night and day for my personal sanity. Um, so I would say, yeah, don't be afraid of hiring, and hire. Um, go, shoot for the moon, swing for the fences, whatever
Yeah.
it is. But hire the heavy hitters and let them do their thing.
Oh, that's great. There's another book similar, and I thought this is what you were going to say. It's called Who Not How by
Same
Dan
concept.
Sullivan, but same, yeah.
Same
Instead of,
concept probably outlines the concept of why that's important,
yeah,
and just who sort of gives you the how to get the who
yeah,
person.
yeah. I'm gonna
So
have to check that out. I've not read Who, so that's good. That's a little nugget for me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah.
How about maybe coming out of who, like, what is your approach? When you hired those 10 people, what was your approach to attracting and retaining like high performance leaders in those different functions, maybe coming out of the book who, or combining that with just your own philosophy? How have you found the real high performers for the business?
So I think, attraction and retention have to go. It's almost the same things that bring on and keep people. Number one, they obviously want to see a company that's growing. Nobody wants to be part of, Kodak or something like that. No offense to those guys or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some industry or business line that's growing. They want to see, dynamic people making big strides. They want to be excited. Um, but it always boils back down to like, how do you treat your people? Are you investing in them? I think during that period, we took a strong look inside and said, what can we do to really max out some of our benefits?
Okay.
And I actually met with, so I was I know I have a friend who's with a software company who's like renowned for, it's a HR software company, and they're renowned for their benefits. And I go, can you give me like a rundown of what benefits your company gives? And I have another friend who actually is the benefits director
Huh.
for a major auto dealer. And they also own like a franchise company too. They own like, they're like a conglomerate at this point. And
Okay.
they're another one where like their retention is off the charts because their benefits are off the charts. And I said, can you give me a rundown? And then and admittedly, right, these are like multi-billion dollar companies. And so
Sure.
you say, okay, what can we do scaled down for our size? Um, but it's people want to know that, okay, gosh, this is gonna be like the book episode.
Yeah.
Um, I'm an avid business book reader.
Me
I
too.
never get my wife reads all the like, the fiction,
Yep.
the I call it her smut reading, if we're being honest. It's like, I'm like, they basically all have the same plot of 50 Shades of Grey, but it's now
Oh,
they're in North Carolina now, and he's a Southern gentleman, and oh, now they're in, but I can't do any fiction. I'm a nerd. I can only read like self-improvement for some reason. But I
uh-huh.
read Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes.
and that is, that's a classic one. I know
Yeah.
he's most famous for Start With Why, but for
Yeah.
me, I felt like I got more out of Leaders Eat Last. And the whole concept behind that was, um, you know, how can you as a business owner invest in your people to where you minimize their kind of, their insecurities and their potential issues that they might have in their life. Wait, right. We all have life issues going on. We all have families, we all have friends, we all have to worry about our health and our economy and the cost of things.
Mhm.
But if I can take some of that off my employees' plates by giving, a big 401k match, paying for, almost, a predominance in almost all of their health care, paying, giving them life insurance, things that, as a company, they're not inexpensive, but from a, percentage of our revenue versus a percentage of what an employee makes. And
Yeah.
we do well. It's not like we're cheap or anything like that. But if I can start eliminating some of those concerns, and make sure it's clear that our culture here is one of collaboration, not competition.
Mhm.
Um, all of a sudden, when you get to work, instead of going, worrying about all the bills you got to pay and all the things going on in your life, you can just work and
Yeah.
and and focus on getting your job done and getting the stuff done. Um, and so I think that in combination with then, learning what the best did, so to speak, about, their benefit structure and adding unique benefits like we do, childcare. If you have a kid and you have to pay for childcare to work till 5 o'clock, we'll contribute to the childcare. Just different things like that. If you're continuing your education on something, we'll pay for credits toward different degrees.
Okay.
Uh, ultimately just it's like I want people who are happy, who are not stressed out about their,
Yes.
their financial situation, their kids, they want to be smarter. And I think it reminds me of that old I think it was a Far Side. Remember the Far Side
Yes,
calendar?
totally. Totally. Yeah.
And you know, you're showing my age here, right?
Boy, that's going way back. I know.
But it was something like, you know, well, what if we train them and they leave? And then the other guy goes, well, what if we don't train them and they stay?
Right. I know. Oh, so true. Any other ways that you invest in your people? And those are some obviously great examples, but any other unique things you do for investing in your people?
Um, I mean, we're always looking for new stuff to do it. I think we were just batting around ideas recently on an HR meeting, and there was something where we could like employer sponsor, um, you know, health benefits where they get like free gym memberships and, you
Okay.
know, Orange Theory classes and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And there was another thing we were looking at where you could, what was it? It was something around the lines of like an HSA, like a health savings account, where we could do something where we could, you know, structure everyone where they can contribute, and then we could contribute as the employer to an HSA for everyone. So when the medical bills, you know, inevitably come due, whether it's for your kids or for yourself, you know, you're paying for it with some tax-free money and that
Sure.
sort of stuff. Just adding, you know, and keep adding the layers on. It's not something that in the same way that like, you know, you kind of have to look at your product offering to clients. I think we do that with our employees and go, okay, okay, it's 2025 is coming. What's going to be the additional thing that we offer next to keep people, you know, engaged and excited, and you know, and like, you know what I mean? It's not like, you know, the lazy way out where it's like, here's free snacks and you should
Right.
love me. We gave you free snacks. It's like, no. Like what, you know, and I'm sure we have some free snacks. I mean, we have you know, every month we have some event where you know, where we're doing catered meals and free food and that sort of stuff, of course. But that's like level one, you know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
okay, snacks, everyone appreciates that. But like, okay, how can you make my life, you know, better as an employee for your company? And I think we think about that, you know, every year, just like we would, because I guess because there are clients too.
Right. No, absolutely. How about you touched a little bit on culture? How do you proactively, work on building a great culture and having strong core values? How do you think about those two things?
Um, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where they say, I think it's like, you know, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's not something that happened overnight. I won't, you know, it's something where you really have to live and breathe it. When they say culture comes from the top, it's absolutely accurate. Because if you or you know, one of those cheesy quotes, you're either, I think this was Mike Leach, he said, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. Um, and and so that's what it happened. You know, here's an example. Here's a super silly example. I had we always do every year, we do like a Halloween party, and that's coming up. Um, and as an example, I would have an executive meeting and I would tell all my executives, like, you all need to plan on dressing up for the Halloween party. And they're like, no, we're all stuffy, you know, codgers here.
Uh,
We don't, you know, we're the executives. And you go, no, like it's mandatory for you to dress up, because if the staff sees you dressing up and participating in this event, they'll feel like it's okay for them to do it
uh,
too. And
yeah.
you want people to feel like, oh, everyone's in. It's not like, oh, the staff does this and the leadership is this, you know, stuffy group. But it's little stuff like that, over and over and over, that adds up, where you say, you know, are we all in this together? Are we all having fun? Are we all participating? Or is it an us versus them kind of mentality in the organization? And us versus them, you know, will destroy culture, you know,
Mhm.
extremely quickly.
Absolutely. How about shifting gears a little bit just to the franchise world? Maybe tell us a little bit about the business or what it's like to be a franchisor and just kind of how, relationships with franchisors, franchisees. You talked about master franchises. Just kind of how does that whole world operate? Because it's so different than other businesses.
So, well, first, let me give you maybe an explanation of our model, because
Perfect.
it's even in franchising, it's a little bit atypical. So when you think of franchising, most people think of like McDonald's, right? And you say, okay, there's the corporate office, and then the people that own the restaurant. Um, our model, that's a two-tier franchise model. Our model happens to be a three-tier franchise model, so it's a little unique. Um, I'm at the corporate office. We then have master franchise owners who they own like a large metro region, so like Metro Atlanta, Detroit, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Dallas, whatever, major, multi-county, huge territories. And then within their territory, they are selling unit franchises. So corporate master franchise, unit franchise. Um, and the unit franchise owns a cleaning business. So if you think about when I say commercial cleaning, because that's what our business model is around. The first image that most people get in their head is, the guy with a backpack or a mop and a broom, or it's the cleaner. But the question is, well, how did he or she get that account that, she was cleaning? It's not just going door to door and saying, hey, can I clean your office or something like
Yeah.
that, right? There's a whole sales engine behind that. And so what we found is, so in thinking about the roles, right? The unit franchise, most commercial cleaning aspect is done at night. And so you have the unit franchise who hires the crew, learns the chemicals, manages the equipment, keeps the buildings clean with their staff. And then ultimately you have the master franchise who not only is selling the unit franchise opportunity in their market USA, but also selling the cleaning contract itself. So they are the
Okay.
ones they have the website, they have the sales staff, the telemarketer, the outside sales, the daytime customer service folks, and they also do the invoicing and collections.
Okay.
So if you think about it, right, you go, okay, the master franchise is almost like the day job, so to speak, of the commercial cleaning industry. And the unit franchise is like the night job of the commercial cleaning industry.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you own just like, if you said, I'm going to own Kip's Cleaning Company, which was a great ring to it, by the way, you should think about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
But if you had Kip's Cleaning Company, you'd be working 24/7, right?
Right.
You got to, sell the accounts, you got to go clean the accounts, then the next day you got to send them an invoice, and then maybe they don't pay, so you got to show up and make sure you're collecting the invoice, and then you got to go sell another job and go clean the last job, and it gets really big really fast, and it gets overwhelming. Um, and so what's unique about our model is it creates a cool synergy because you have these master franchises who, do all the sales and administration for a cleaning business, but have absolutely zero people who do any cleaning at a master franchise office. And then on the flip side, you have these unit franchisees who, they have all the cleaning expertise, they understand the chemicals, the equipment. Like I said, they hire the crew and have zero sales overhead, zero sales staff, zero sales employees. So the synergy is, I mean, everyone's saving lots and lots of overhead by kind of outsourcing, a half of the business to the other side.
Sure. Oh, that's very good. And how many markets are you guys in around the country, or maybe states, or however you look at it? How do you look at your coverage in the
Yeah.
US?
So we're actually across US and Canada.
Okay.
We have 48 master franchises, and so those are all, again, big metro markets. Um, I don't know how many states that is actually. I don't know. A lot. A lot of them. Um,
And what areas in Canada are you guys in?
we cover Vancouver, Manitoba, the entire province of Manitoba.
Okay.
They're located in Winnipeg, Toronto, um, and looking for. I think we have some interest right now in Calgary and another interest in another portion of Toronto, since
Okay.
Toronto's so massive.
Yeah. Oh, very good. That's exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
How about any future trends or opportunities that you see out there that you're most excited about?
So what's interesting in our space is how much technology is becoming, a crucial part. And normally you think like, cleaning technology sounds like an oxymoron, you know what I mean? Like jumbo shrimp or something, it's just like,
Uh,
what? Cleaning technology. Um, but it's not the actual technology of the stuff, the equipment, right? We all, at enough, enough of my large, the large competitors, we all have the same, chemical access. We all have the same access to the, backpack vacuums and microfibers and all that. We're not competing on, equipment efficiency. There, it's all the same, at a high enough level. Um, where we've invested in our technological, journey here is in customer service.
Okay.
So so think of it like this. So we were talking about McDonald's. So think of like a restaurant, right? You can have at a restaurant, you can have one of three experiences. You either go there and the food is great, the waitress is wonderful. You have a terrible experience, right? Food is cold, the waiter's a jerk about it. Or you just have that like middle of the road, whatever, non-memorable experience, right? In cleaning, there are only two. Zero people come in and go, "Oh my goodness, this place is so clean. I'm going to get my janitor a birthday present." It just doesn't happen.
Uh-huh.
I've seen it happen like once or twice, but it doesn't happen often. So either you get to the office, and you go, "Well, I got to work," and you don't think of it at all, or you get in and you go, why is my trash can still full? Why is this, why does my desk still have smudges from yesterday on it? Why is the bathroom, smelly or gross or whatever? So you only have this sort of non-memorable, forgettable, or you have a bad situation. So we looked at it and we said, now granted, like pros of my model, right, is that you're not going to export, commercial cleaning to China or something like
Right.
that. Amazon is not coming and building a warehouse in town and putting me out of business. You need people to physically come into your office, and do the actual cleaning. Um, but downside, right, is if you have that human element at all times in all aspects of the business, humans make mistakes.
Hmm.
And if you're going to make a mistake, we need to acknowledge that, we're going to make a mistake. And so how do we change the game a little bit in our space? And they say like, if you get a bad Google review or whatever, the faster you're able to respond to that and resolve it, the more you're able to make a customer for life. So we kind of took that mentality and said, okay, we know we're not going to be, the compliments farm over here. We're not going to, people going, oh my God, this is amazing. It's the cleanest floor I've ever seen. Um, so we need to acknowledge that if we're going to make a customer for life, we need to, acknowledge mistakes quickly and resolve them quickly. So we invested in, it's a proprietary platform that we put together called CleanCom. And what CleanCom is it's a piece of software. It's a like an app for your phone.
Okay.
And when you become an Anago customer, if you have any issues with your cleaning service, you take out your phone, you take a picture of it. You're able to message the franchisee who's in charge of your account. It's all private communication. You're not exchanging cell phone numbers or anything like that. Um, you take the picture of it, you type in whatever the issue may be. It has built-in Google Translate. So if maybe your native language isn't the native language of the person that's cleaning the building, you can type in your language. They can respond. They can read it in theirs and respond in theirs, and then you can read it back in yours. And it has a built-in 2-hour response guarantee.
Huh.
So a lot of times it's we called the cleaning company, we didn't hear back. We left them a note. They didn't do what we asked for. And we eliminate all of that headache with this rapid response and 2-hour response guarantee so that that whatever your issue is, it's going to be resolved and it's going to be resolved quickly. And I mean, for us, that's been a game changer, right? I think it made our retention rate in the industry is about, so there's natural attrition in the space. Excuse me. There's natural attrition in the space, but our attrition is 50% less than the industry average.
Wow.
So once you become an Anago customer, usually, I think our average customer stays with us for like 5 or 6 years. I'd have to get the latest data, but
Uh-huh.
it's a long time. And usually people are changing contracts every year to a new provider because they're just not happy with who they've gotten. So people stick around, because they know they're going to be taken care of. And they know that they're not going to be chasing down the cleaning company and, getting, dialing and leaving notes and, hey, does anybody here speak that language? Can you write a note in that language for me? Let's go on Google Translate. Like, no, 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 no. Like all of the communication, um, all kind of in a nutshell, and all from the, from your phone, which, everybody's attached to at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that for us has been where we've invested is communication technology for customer service.
That's incredible. And you've taken away all the friction as you showed to do that. It's just direct, it's quick, it's 2 hour response. That's
Exactly.
brilliant. That's amazing. Are your competitors doing something similar to that, or do you even know if other people have caught on to what you're doing?
I'm sure there's other, I know like there's more, like when we first came up with this, we were the only ones.
Hmm.
Now I know there's a lot of like janitorial software out there. Whether or not it does exactly the way ours does. Um, Frankly, I still don't see a lot of competitors using any of that technology when our sales reps are out in the proverbial streets. So it's there, I'm sure, but if they're not using it, what's the point of having it?
Yeah. How about as far as like for the units or the master franchise, whatever level, like who is the target? I mean, is it large office buildings, or I mean, you mentioned when you first started, you were helping someone clean a daycare. Is there a certain sort of commercial property that is typical, or is it all across the board?
I mean, it's definitely all across the board. I would say our sweet spot is probably, like your medium, let's call it medium size facility, small to medium size facility where, it's your local daycare, your local school, the offices, the office parks you see all around your
Okay.
community, doctor's offices, medical campuses, that sort of stuff. I would say that's probably our sweet spot.
Okay.
But we service, I mean, we literally will do anything, as long as it's not residential, right? No houses.
Yeah.
Wholly, totally different ball game when you get
Yeah.
into residential versus commercial. Um, but we'll do small 2, 3 room offices, and we do, I was talking to someone who's working on a 6 auto dealership deal, and I'm talking to someone else who was doing a 250,000 square foot shipping warehouse. So we have the
Okay.
capability to do all of it.
Yeah. Oh, very good. How about any of the, some of the biggest challenges that you face while either building the business or just kind of economic wins, and how'd you overcome those?
Um, hmm. I think COVID was a great example where um from before COVID, we were very much on the push economic model. So, we would reach out to decision makers at different office buildings and say, hey, would you like our services? Let us give you a quote. And COVID did to us what like frankly what like Viagra did to the pharmaceutical world, where all of a sudden, they started advertising directly to the consumer. And the guys that learned out, what that did, they go, I'm going to my doctor and I'm getting that little blue pill. Versus, the doctor telling them, here's what you could use. And so COVID for us did the same, where it made it where consumers were coming to us and going, do you guys understand, how disinfection works and how to make sure my space is sanitary versus just clean? There's actually we had a whole, marketing program around that during COVID to explain the difference between clean versus disinfected, and it's night and day what's left behind, let's just say.
Okay.
um but it was a huge shift because we had, frankly, I mean, we literally had to become disinfection experts overnight. It was something we did. It wasn't something that we did with a lot of regularity. I mean, hospitals and medical facilities asked for stuff like that, but now everybody was asking for it. And so to switch, we literally had to create, we had some of our franchisee team work together with some third parties, and we literally put together a full-blown disinfection operating manual. We created, it was a service line called Protection Plus Disinfection. And I mean, we pivoted the entire model. And so, it was a year where, um, we were used to 20+% growth per year. And a year where like businesses were closing and people were shuttering their doors, and if you were if you were a restaurant or a fitness franchise, I mean that was brutal. And we
Mm.
grew, wasn't our best year, wasn't anything to write home about. We grew 8%.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that was probably around the time where, after being on call. I mean, when COVID happened, it was everyone's kind of fight or flight kicked in. And I mean, I was on calls once, initially twice a week, and then down to once a week with all of our entire franchise system, just going, here's what's going on, here's what the latest, here's what we're hearing, here's how to apply for PPP money.
Huh.
Um, I mean, it was a weird time because, first of all, so side story, I had just sold my house, and my wife and I moved into my mother-in-law's, and then 2 days later, like, the world closed.
Oh boy.
Um, and yeah, and we had closed on the new house, which, so because we were planning to renovate,
Uh-huh.
but wasn't planning to renovate during COVID. Which, side note, also, if you're going to renovate, do it in a worldwide pandemic, because your
Yeah,
GC has nowhere else to go but your
right.
house.
It's
and
true.
and we
It's
actually got
totally
done like a
true.
week ahead of schedule. It was amazing. I was like, I've never had this
It's unheard
experience.
of.
But excuse me, so I'm living with my mother-in-law, my wife, and my then 18-month-old
Okay.
at
Oh
my
boy.
mother-in-law's house. And I love my family, but I was like, I gotta get out of this house.
Yeah.
And so I was literally going to the office. It's a 3-story office. I was the only one in the building.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but it became natural. It was okay, we're gonna show up at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we're gonna be here till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, just handling everyone's concerns, making sure everyone, hey, we're okay, we're gonna get through this. Um, and it changed for me a lot of what that picture of leadership looked like. That's when it was shortly after that when a lot of like the stuff I talked to you about earlier about casting a vision for everyone, and
Yeah.
giving everyone direction, and where should we be marching, and how do we all row in the same direction at the same time. That all happened around COVID for me. That was definitely one of those eras that was, uh, as much as you'd like it to be forgettable, it was extremely memorable.
Yeah. So I mean, you said you still grew 8%. Was that a function of now you're doing this disinfectant procedure, which my guess would be more profitable, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you're probably doing it less often because people aren't in their buildings as much. So is it more profitable work, or it's more expensive work, but it's not quite as often because people aren't in their offices as much? Or how does that those dynamics shake out for you?
Yeah, I think it was more of just a general offset, right? Because there was a lot of businesses during lockdowns and that sort of stuff where they just closed and said we don't need cleaning.
Yeah.
Um, and so to when they did reopen, to be able to say, okay, how do we get all your employees back and back safely? Um, it's it there, you actually literally have to, and there's whole studies behind this, but you actually have to clean before you can disinfect. So it's like you got
Huh.
to remove dirt, and then once the dirt is gone, there's still, if you wipe any surface, right? You wipe it, spray it with, I don't know, Windex, let's just say. You spray it, you wipe it. You've taken the dirt off of the surface. But if you get with one of those, you got there with a microscope, let's just say, that the germs and the bacteria are all on there. Um, Most people don't realize that, like, the typical household products that you clean your house with, even, um, like a Lysol wipe, not to hate on Lysol, but like you
Uh-huh.
have to leave a Lysol wipe, like you have to leave a surface wet for like 30 seconds before it's actually killed any viruses or bacteria.
Huh.
And so nobody's doing that, right? You're just kind of wiping real fast and moving on, and you've moved the germs around, but you haven't killed anything. And so there's a process that, you have to number one, educate the consumer on and say, here's what it looks like. Here, you're not just going through with Lysol wipes, you're not just pumping hand sanitizer and calling it a day. You have to thoroughly disinfect surfaces, and it's a totally different approach. And so
Yeah.
that, yeah, it
Mm.
helped kind of offset what was closing, what was being lost on the back end with businesses closing for good, even, by adding that additional service line to customers. And then, like I said, having customers seek us out saying, hey, this is what we need to make sure our employees are safe. Is this something you can help us with? And having, you know, created frankly, the only certified program in the country to
Huh,
handle it. It helps.
for sure. Are people still doing that? They still want the disinfectant process, or is it, or kind of how does it look
Uh,
now?
some do. I don't think it's remotely what it was,
Okay.
obviously, in COVID. I joke, I say we're all animals back to not washing our hands. I think it's obviously it's less of a concern right now. But it's something that, I think people have just a general heightened sense of cleanliness now compared to before COVID.
Mm.
Um, and when you have people who were doing remote work for an extended period, or, now they're coming back to either hybrid, or a lot of companies are even going back to all office. Um, they're demanding more when they come back. They don't want to go to some, slummy office. They want to go back to a place that is, smells good, looks
Uh-huh.
clean, isn't some gross surfaces or smelly trash cans or stuff. So, I think the general heightened awareness of cleanliness is probably here to stay for a while.
Yeah. How about we talk a lot on this show about free markets, just like the beauty of living in America and in a capitalist free market society. How has the free market system, or embracing the free markets and capitalism, benefited you and in Anago in the business?
I mean, I think Anago, as much as we're in the commercial cleaning space, I mean, our job is helping put people into business, right? The master franchise, when they're selling a unit franchise, these are a lot of times people, it's frankly, the unit franchise is like the ultimate side hustle, right? Because it's
Uh-huh.
done it. You can start small. A lot of people can get in and say, look, I just want to have a couple grand extra of income every month. I'm not looking to, become Bill Gates or something. I'm just looking to make some extra, extra cash, side cash. Um, and then you see them scale from there. I actually just gave an award to a lady, uh, I think it was maybe last fall. She reached $1 million in revenue for what she started as a small cleaning business. Um, and she has zero salespeople. Again, mind you, right? She's a
Yeah.
unit. She has zero salespeople, has $1 million business. Um, so that's what we do. I mean, it's the most exciting thing ever when someone says, I put my kids through college because of the unit franchise that I bought. I was able to buy that car, put that down payment on the house that I was looking at with my wife because of your franchise opportunity. Um, and that's what we do. We help people, live the dream of business ownership, at the unit level, and then also at the master franchise level, where, a lot of times it's like, former C-suite, former VPs and directors leaving the business world and going, wait a minute, I don't want to be a restaurateur working 7 days a week, nights and weekends. Um, I don't want to go get a job somewhere because I know that I was being paid well and they're not going to give me that kind of money at some other new place. How do I repackage my executive skill set, but make it about me instead of making somebody else rich?
Yeah.
That's sort of the master franchise, right? Because it's about building and managing a sales team, customer service, coaching your unit franchisees, having it, managing an accounting department that's collecting on time. None of it's rocket science.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it's executive management skills 101 almost.
Yeah.
And so in our opinion, we have 40, I think I said 48 master franchises and over 1,800 active unit
Oh,
franchises
wow.
across in Canada. So it's like we've put almost 2,000 people into business ownership. So we're extremely pro capital.
Yes, that's incredible. How about any kind of looking back up into this point, any particular decision or action that you would say has been most pivotal in your success?
Um, So in right after I started that hiring journey, um, and we cast a vision out, and we were at the time we were doing, call it about 60 million or so in recurring revenue. I mean, we're a good sized brand, don't get me wrong, but I worked with our executive team, and we created what we called the $100 million challenge. And we said, we have certain things we're going to be investing in. We helped This was, right after the Great Resignation. We invested. We said, if you hire a salesperson, we're going to reimburse you with royalty credits toward a portion of their salary. We poured a small fortune into a new CRM platform that we're working on, still working on. And so we never stop now working
Right.
on that thing.
Yeah.
But we did a bunch of initiatives, and and we said I want to be $100 million brand, so about just over 50% growth in 24 months, and we ended up
Wow.
doing it in 19.
Wow.
And
That's incredible.
that, I mean, then that set me off, right? Because I'm going,
Yes.
like, I kind of was like, shoot, I should have said 120. Um, but so I think that was to me, that was the impact of a clear vision and clear direction and buy-in and everyone rowing in the same direction. We were growing at just like warp speed there. And so, of course, I don't know if it's brains or balls, frankly, but I put my neck out at the last conference that we did, and I said, and now I want to be a $300 million brand by 2028. So I want to, we've almost doubled, and now I want to triple from here, and I want to do it in 5 years. And it's definitely a different pattern, right? It's even more scale, which means even more expenses and more people. But it's extremely exciting to be able to say, here are the things that we're focusing on to get there, and we're not going to deviate. We're not going to jump off this unless we realize we're completely idiots and have gone in the wrong direction, which I don't think is going to happen.
Uh-huh.
But these are the things we're going to focus on, and we're not going to focus on anything else. Um, I think that for me was a moment where I was like, okay, we really, it got exciting again. It actually, at first, it's funny. I talked to a friend of mine, and I go, this doesn't, here's how much of like an achiever type person I am. We hit the goal, and I said to my wife, and I'm like, it doesn't really feel any different. Like, I thought I
Uh-huh.
would feel something when we hit this major milestone, and it feels like, well, it's Tuesday. Um,
Uh-huh.
and a buddy of mine, I told him the same thing, and he goes, listen, he goes, make sure you celebrate the win with your team,
Uh-huh.
and make sure you with your staff, with your franchisees, because they need to know that, like, hey, mission accomplished, but now the mission is that much bigger. And so, at the conference I was alluding to, we had this big blowout party, and we gave everyone these special awards with tiers that show, on 100, 200, 300 million. And as we climbed there, and I took my whole staff axe throwing when we got
Oh,
back.
fun.
I was like, let's just come into the
Yeah.
office every one day and like blow off a Friday, and we'll go and have some drinks and throw some axes. And what a wild business model, side note. Like, let's
I know,
have
crazy.
beer and throw axes. No, what could
Right.
possibly go wrong?
You're right.
Um,
Right.
Nothing did go wrong, but like, but just like, hey, I want everyone to know, like, let's take a day and just celebrate this win. Um, and when we get to the next milestone, we're going to celebrate again.
No, that's fantastic. How about, and it sounds like you're doing this in your business, but any advice you'd give to either young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs like the people you talked about that were maybe in corporate America and now they want to do something on their own? Just any advice you'd give to people looking to become entrepreneurs or take the leap?
Um, so I would say, if someone's looking to start their own business, or do a franchise, number one, I would say there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So think about what you're passionate about. If you're not, if this isn't something you're super passionate about, don't do it. There's a lot of great jobs out there that make a lot of money, that have a lot less stress
True.
than someone who owns their own shop, so to speak. It has to be something that you're really, really passionate and excited about. Um, Number two, I would say, think about the larger functions of the business as well, right? So, I hate to say it, but like the stats on small business startups are pretty abysmal, right? It's like 50% fail within, I think the first year, and then another of the remaining 50, like another 50% of those fail within 5 years. I mean,
Uh-huh.
don't quote me. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's terrible statistics. And our my hypothesis, the hypothesis that Anago kind of, and completely believes in, is the reason those businesses fail is because most people get into a business, start a small business because they understand the operational side of that business and nothing else. So
Uh-huh.
if I say, Kip, you're a phenomenal cook, you should open a restaurant. And maybe you are, maybe you're a grill master or something, and you can make the world's greatest steaks and barbecue and whatever. And you get in there and you start, cooking everything up, and you go, okay, well, wait a minute. I gotta do some advertising to get people here. I gotta hire people to and train them to be the waiters and waitresses and the other cooks. I gotta understand, inventory turnover and spoilage and, accounting and marketing. And so there's all these other functions that you have to consider beyond just the core function of the business. I think that's what our model does well, where we say, okay, we have people who, cleaning's not rocket science. There's nothing earth-shattering about it. But to start a cleaning business, you also have to understand marketing, customer service, invoicing, collections. And so I think our model does a great job of like separating the two and letting the people, focus on which area of the business they are most excited about. Um, and I think so that's maybe my case for franchising is that
Uh-huh.
a lot of the 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 business side, the marketing, some of the stuff that's the more complicated stuff, there's a brand that's already come up with a way to do it, and they've already tested it, and they've already thought it through, um, to make it to where you don't have to worry about all of that. You could just kind of operate the business and do what's exciting to you.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. How about last last question for you personally? How would you define success, whether it's business, personal, however you want to take it? What's your personal definition of success?
Yeah. Um, I think I think I would say, success it has to be a combination of business and personal. Um, I've actually made it very much a point to kind of work myself out of a job as much as possible.
Uh-huh.
That's why I get the pleasure of, being with you today on a
Yeah,
podcast versus, stuck in a meeting somewhere. And don't get me wrong, I'm still, I'm always on. I don't ever shut off. I'm quote unquote working all the time.
right.
But I think I've done a good job of when I was at IBM, they called it work-life integration. And this was 2008. And it was and that was right when work-life balance was the buzzword. And I was like, well, work-life integration just means you have no life. And and boy, was I wrong. I mean, it really is. Like
Yeah.
my wife and I went on a vacation. We were on a little island on the west coast of Florida, and I brought my
Oh,
laptop with me, and I had
uh-huh.
Wi-Fi. And I wasn't working the entire time. I got to go, fishing with my kids and lay out at the
Yeah.
beach. And then like I would shoot in for an hour when my kids are all 6 and under. So,
Okay.
a couple of them need a nap. When they're napping, I go in, knock out a few crucial things. Um, so for me, work-life integration has been sort of the way forward, but also acknowledging that like I'm not I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. If you're the CEO and you're the smartest guy in the room particularly at a larger, company, you've done a terrible job hiring,
For
frankly.
sure.
You should be focused on bringing on people that have bigger ideas, better ideas, and just can help, make your vision a reality. And my job then becomes strategy, culture, direction, vision, and not as much about the day to day. So,
Yeah.
for me, that success is when, I can go to vacation, I can not be on vacation, and I'm dictating my schedule and doing the things that I'm passionate about versus, going, working the proverbial, punching the proverbial clock and having my schedule being dictated to me.
No, that's excellent. Very good. And then how about how can people find you or learn more about Anago?
So Anago's, I mean, we're all over social media. We have our website is anagocleaning.com. That's ANAGO cleaning.com. And then everything on social media. So it's Facebook/Anago Cleaning and Instagram/Anago Cleaning. And then I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Um, if anyone wants to, look me up on LinkedIn, I'll be sure to respond.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and we'll put all that in the show notes. But thank you very much. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you on, and super interesting, fascinating, looking into the world of Anago cleaning and franchising, and really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Pleasure. Good speaking with you.
All right, thanks so much.